I'm a big dreamer. I think you got to dream in life to know what you want.
The Miami Heat, they've done it. They win their first championship in franchise history.
To me, it's still crazy when I walk around and I see people wearing my jersey, people wearing my shoes.
The Miami Heat are once again NBA champions.
Know that this moment might not ever come again. While you have it, cherish it.
The 2013 NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
I ain't got nothing left.
Before there was Flash, before there was Wade County, before there was a Big Three show and moments like that, there was a Marquette guard who was getting ready for a draft that already featured household names. And legend has it that before pre-draft workouts, Dwyane Wade would vow to destroy the player he was working out with while sharing the same car ride with that player. As he gets ready for his final regular season home game tonight, Wade's coach, Eric Spoelstra, spoke moments ago. It's new on SportsCenter.
This doesn't happen every season. I mean, there might be just a handful of NBA greats that have had an opportunity to be celebrated like this and to be honored. And for all of it to work out just from a health standpoint with your original team, fan base, coaching staff relationships, all of it just played out in the right way. And I want our team to honor that. And whatever the motivations may be, we know what our ultimate motivation is. But for tonight, I want the guys playing for something bigger than just themselves. Play for somebody else. And find the gratification that can come out of that, and honoring a great, and the joy that our guys can get from that. I want our guys to have that kind of mindset tonight.
That mindset is against the Sixers tonight. The Heat really cashed in when they drafted Wade, 5th overall back in 2003. Let's not forget, they had a ton of talent in that draft. LeBron, Melo, Chris Bosh. He's one of 6 top 5 picks to win 3 or more NBA titles with the team that drafted them. The other 5, how about Magic, Kevin McHale, James Worthy, MJ, and Tim Duncan. Keith?
So, Kevin, NBA news, good and bad. No better person to talk about both ends of the spectrum than Stephen A. Smith, who joins us now. As promised, Dwyane Wade legacy, more than just he and LeBron did this, he and LeBron did that.
Absolutely. I mean, when you consider what he did in the NBA Finals, they were down 2-0 in 2006 against the Dallas Mavericks. He put on an absolute show after averaging better than 37 and delivered Shaq a championship after Shaq had departed from L.A., unceremoniously, I might add. He recruited LeBron James to come to Miami and convinced him and Chris Bosh to join forces with him in South Beach. He went 7 consecutive years from 2005 to 2012, averaging a minimum of 24 points per game, although it dipped the following year to 22 points per game to make room basically for LeBron James as just his ascension rather. I remember the last playoff series the year before LeBron James arrived. You recall 2 years before LeBron arrived, he had led the league in scoring, averaging 30. The following year, right before LeBron decided to come on board, he went into the postseason and averaged 33. This is one of the top 5 off guards in the history of basketball. A surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, and anybody who knows him, who's covered him, who's been around him will tell you he's an even better person than he is a basketball player. So it's a special night, no question.
Yeah, we go from that and what we just heard Eric Spoelstra say and all that warm feeling and everything else. And then the other extreme is the Lakers. And Ramona Shelburne said something on The Jump on ESPN earlier today that was amazing to say the least. Let me play this rather than quote it.
Sure.
Luke Walton and Magic Johnson have not spoken for weeks. That's a problem. Okay, and I know the season has been over for a long time. They're not going to make the playoffs. But if you're in a position where the head coach and the front office, the general manager, the president of basketball operations are not in lockstep, if there's not a trust, if there's not a relationship there that has had 2 years to build, then what are you doing as an organization?
That's my jaw dropping. I assume that vaults ahead of LeBron as the first issue the Lakers have to address in the offseason that starts in a couple hours?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, the bottom line is this. What do you want them to do? Hug and sing kumbaya to one another? You're about to fire the man. There's nothing to talk about there. Want to go to Starbucks and get a drink or a latte or something? There, he's not going to be there come tomorrow. That is the reality of the situation. And people like myself and many others are willing to look at the Lakers roster, recognize he didn't have much to work with because Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson didn't get him any shooters. And as a result, he went from improving 9 games in each of the past 2 seasons to not improving nearly that much when you had the best player in the world at that particular moment in time. But there comes a point in time where we have to realize if somebody's not your guy, if somebody's not the guy that you wanted, if you inherited somebody that you would not have particularly wanted, then the end is inevitable. And that's what's going on here right now. So we feel sorry for Luke Walton because obviously he deserved better, but it's very predictable what's transpiring. Magic Johnson wants his own guy, just like he wants his own players. So he's going to be out with one coach. He's going to be in with another. And he's got to be sold on LeBron James, who he signed to a 4-year, $153 million max deal. That's the reality of big boy world in the business of basketball. People need to get over it because it's just that way.
I have the coach, Jeannie Buss. Stephen A. Smith, who is in the chair for the second hour Sports Center, my friend Jeannie Buss. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll be watching. Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy.
The man never stops working. That is Stephen A. Smith. As KO just told you, a special edition of Sports Center coming your way. The top of the hour, Damian Lillard. His Blazers getting ready for the Jazz in the playoffs, averaging 26 points per fantastic star, joining Stephen A. Smith, top of the hour.
The Lakers' latest drama. I want to take a moment to talk about Dwyane Wade in Miami. As we speak, they're getting ready to celebrate this man, one of the greatest cards in the history of the NBA, a 3-time champion, a former league scoring champion, an Olympian. This man has been absolutely phenomenal as a player. As far as I'm concerned, he's going into the Hall of Fame as one of the top 5 shooting guards in the history of basketball. 7 straight seasons from 2005 to 2012, averaging a minimum of 24 games. We know what he did in terms of recruiting LeBron to South Beach and Chris Bosh, by the way. And we know what he did for Shaq when he won his first title, just destroying the Dallas Mavericks in their last 4 games after being down 2-0. But more importantly than anything else, no matter how great he was as a guard, as a player, as a star in the NBA, it is nothing compared to the great individual that he was. It was an honor to cover him for his entire career in the NBA. We're going to miss him. Thank you, D. Wade, for everything you've done.
I've always been the leader of the pack. I've always been the commander. I've always been the person in front. I've always wanted what everybody else didn't want. I want people to say that LeBron James did it his way, and now he's a legend.
I know it's going to be very challenging just because of the experience that the roster had at that point in time. I would never get comfortable with losing. The last few years, everybody's so accustomed to the losses that I'm just not accustomed to.
LeBron James is used to his seasons ending in June, as that's been the case in each of the prior 8 seasons before this year. However, LeBron played his final game of 2018-2019 in March for a Lakers team whose season ends tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers. Welcoming in our NBA reporter extraordinaire, Dave McMenamin, live from the Staples Center. Dave, let's get right into it. Ramona Shelburne, obviously doing an outstanding job, as she always does, reported that Magic Johnson and Luke Walton have not spoken for weeks. The report is basically saying that Luke Walton is gone, which is something that we've all been hearing about and we all know. We know that much about the guy that's about to be out as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. What is it that we don't know that's been going on with Luke Walton and the Lakers over the last several months?
Well, Stephen, we have to think about the hypocrisy of the mixed messages, right? Right now, he doesn't hear from Magic Johnson. Earlier in the year, Rob Pelinka, the GM, was sitting in on coaches' meetings and involving himself at a granular level. That's not a normal practice that happens with a coaching staff and a front office. And then beyond that, we're going about a couple weeks now, but the team was flying back from Milwaukee to LA at the end of a 5-game road trip. Luke is on the plane with Jeannie Buss. She was on that trip with the team. And rather than saying, or complaining that, this team has been so hard to manage or the roster was constructed poorly. Luke was focusing on the future, and he said to Jeanie, hey, I'm in my first year with this group. Magic and Pelinka are both young in these positions. Why not give us a chance to move forward together? It appears that message fell on deaf ears as the Lakers look at the coaching situation moving forward.
Luke Walton's record coming into the season finale against Portland tonight is 98-147. That's a 40% winning percentage. Obviously, that doesn't bode well for him. But is he on his way out the door because of that record, because of inefficiency? Or is it a situation where he was never Magic Johnson's guy to begin with, and he never really had a chance at staying on as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah, Stephen, what happened to the coach of the year in the Eastern Conference last year, Dwayne Casey? He was let go, and they made a playoff run. And why was he let go? Ultimately, because he wasn't hired by Masai Ujiri in Toronto. And this happens time and time again in this league. Now, is it fair? Certainly not. Luke Walton's winning percentage, while not overwhelming, was an improvement. The 3 years prior to him arriving, the Lakers are winning around 26% of their games. And so he's done some things. You talk to people like Josh Hart and Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma and Lonzo Ball. All of them feel like they are better pros because they've played under Luke Walton. But this is a really tough job, and you're dealing with an aging superstar, one-year contract veterans, and then that young core. I'm not sure if there's any coach who would have been cut out to get this team this year to the playoffs. But that was the goal of Magic Johnson in the front office, and someone, apparently, probably Luke Walton, will pay the price for not meeting that goal.
Who's going to pick the next coach? Magic Johnson or LeBron James, or a combination of the two?
I would hope, Stephen A., it's a combination of the two. Now, ultimately, the person who has to answer for whomever the coach is and however it goes has to be Magic Johnson. But it would be foolish not to consult LeBron in this process, because that's what you do when you have a player of his stature in terms of both the game now and the game all time. And listen, if you don't, you could just be setting yourself up for another headache. So I would hope that LeBron James is involved in the decision-making process. There should be a consensus, though. I mean, LeBron, Magic, Rob Pelinka, Jeanie Buss, I hope all of them feel good about whomever comes in to be the next coach, because you don't want to be in the same situation next year looking at the playoffs and wondering, man, did we make the wrong decision?
Dave, how much, before I let you go real quick, how much culpability does LeBron accept for what happened during this season? Obviously, they were a 4th seed before he went down Christmas Day with the groin injury and missed 17 consecutive games. They've never been the same since. We've seen dysfunction rake through this franchise in very public ways. Does he accept any culpability for it, or is he looking elsewhere in terms of that?
He hasn't run from it. It's not like he's saying it's all on him. Perhaps he's saying it's all on the injury that he suffered on Christmas Day, but that coincided with the injury to Rajon Rondo. And, of course, we know that the Lakers are limping into the postseason with no Lonzo Ball on the court, no Kyle Kuzma, no Josh Hart, no Brandon Ingram also. So the injuries really are the thing to blame here. But LeBron, of course, because you go back to last summer, Magic Johnson presented this plan to bring in playmakers around him rather than shooters. Well, LeBron had to sign off on that plan. And so there's a level of culpability there, and the level of culpability on just his body not being able to allow him to be on the court as much as they needed him to make it into the playoffs in a really tough Western Conference.
Well, I sincerely doubt that'll be the case next year. I expect him to come out big time next year and be a league MVP candidate again. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if Tyronn Lue is his coach in the process. Dave McMenamin, our NBA reporter extraordinaire. Great job as always, buddy. Thank you so much.